Doing a live post game here from the Sweet Press Club level at Lumen Field, as we can hear the Sounders post match party going on after winning Leagues Cup 2025. As the Sounders social people were joking, the most important trophy.
Oh, absolutely.
The most important trophy. Owen, I don't know what you expected from this match. I didn't expect domination like this.
Yeah.
I was never super worried, because, obviously we talked about it on Soundwaves from the Sea, how, strong of a run they've been on.
Yeah.
But this was domination. I didn't see anything, outside of the few runs in the second half, it was all Seattle. I don't know. What did you, initially, I know we'll talk about a few things because some agendas were fed, but what did you see from this match, from our seats in the press box?
Well, I thought they played the first half really well. I was talking to some guys this morning, and they were like, "Hey, what needs to happen in this game?" And what I said was, I said the Sounders need to start fast. I think Miami has played a lot of games in a really short amount of time and flown across the country.
Yep.
This is not a young team that's playing here, and so I think what really needs to happen is that the Sounders need to. What I said was score in the first 20 minutes. That's not exactly what happened, but it was close enough, honestly. And I think the pressure that the Sounders put Miami under so immediately was very important, because what Miami does is it says, we want to score more than you. They want to get on you early. They want to force you to chase.
Yep.
And allow the guys who are such great creators in this team to pick apart guys who are more focused on scoring goals than defending. And so that's why it was so important to start fast. The Sounders, didn't have the possession that Brian Spencer says so often that he really does. This team wants the ball. He was frustrated when, they beat LA 4-0, but they didn't have more than 50% possession. They had 30% possession in this game. 12 minutes in, they had less than 30. And yet, they were taking shots, they were creating, they were putting Miami on the back foot. Mm-hmm. But I thought it was interesting because I'm writing about this, and I'm saying, what's so surprising is that for a team and a program and a manager that so rarely concedes tactically, changing formation, changing just how you play, it really was kind of a departure from what this team has been a little bit, just because the Sounders weren't the team controlling the ball. The Sounders weren't the team really pushing this. Andrew Thomas very rarely, at least in the first half, rolled it out to Jackson Reagan or to a guy who checked deep. He would punt it long. And it seemed like, and I was looking at Brian Spencer because there was one time he punted it out of bounds, and he looks at him and he goes, he doesn't go play short, he goes, everybody has to come together and then go long. And so I thought it was very interesting that, there was, of course there's a level of respect for this Miami team, but that so much that they changed their tactics, and it worked. The early goal was very important. I think it's obvious that Jose still isn't a perfect. Nobody's a perfect finisher, but in terms of where Jordan Morris or a guy like Danny Mitovsky sits, he's still missing opportunities. The Sounders could have been up 3-0 in this game.
Oh yeah,
in 20 minutes.
Yeah,
but he puts it away, and that's so important, because in the second half I look over at Dela, and I go, there's no way the Sounders can sit back and defend like this for 45 minutes. Mm-hmm. It's just something that you cannot do in a soccer game, no matter how good you are. You have to have either the ball and defend with the ball, or you have to score a second goal. Sounders scored a second goal, and it was so important that Georgie Manungu came on in this game, because we've talked about whether he's the starter in this team, honestly. Yep. But what we've come back to is that there's guys in this team like Paul Rothbach, like Pedro de la Vega, who wear fullbacks down.
Yes. Especially
old fullbacks. Jordi Alba's a fantastic player, but he's old. His legs are old, and he likes to get forward. They're right back as well. Same thing. When Georgie Manungu comes on, his first step is unbelievable, and that's how he wins the penalty. He gets his legs swept out by a guy who's been chasing him, and that's how the Sounders win this game. We'll get into it more, but I think this is just such an organizational success for the Sounders.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
It's really, we talked about, credit to Noah and Ari who talked about this on their LA Galaxy post-game show, but the difference between these two teams in terms of how they build their roster, Miami's program is stars and stars and stars. Seattle's has multi-million-dollar players, like Brian Schmetzer says. They've signed guys like Obafemi Martins, like Clint Dempsey, like Pedro de la Vega, like Albert Rusnak, who was on a free transfer, but he's a multi-million-dollar player.
Yep.
But the guys who won this game for the Sounders were guys who were either I need to double check this number, but I believe it's 13 of the 22 players in the squad were either drafted, came through Tacoma Defiance, came through the academy, or were born in Seattle.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know how much more validation that gets you.
Yeah, well, I mean, just looking here at the lineup, right? I mean, you go, like, specifically the back line. Alex Strawn's a Seattle U guy. Yamar, they bring in, so not him, but Jackson Reagan, we've seen come up, local guy. Reed has come up. Obed, come up. Christian Roldan, UW.
Super draft.
I know you don't like to hear that.
Respect it.
Paul Rothrock, local guy. Jesus, not counting.
But came from an MLS academy.
Okay, sure. And Dero, Tacoma Defiance.
Also MLS academy.
Yes. So this lineup, I saw comments, because obviously we talked about it with our last episode with Nuhu being out, with Denny Musovski being suspended, the worry. Well, I don't think we talked about worry per se, but I saw quote tweets on the lineup graphic being like, this is a Sounders team that's worn thin. I'm like, sure, you don't have Musovski for this one. I know, if we had Michael on, I'm sure he's fast asleep right. Well, he's at a wedding. But, Danny Musovski's been on a tear. Nuhu's obviously your best left back, as you said, and we've all said on the show. But, I don't know, just they've been so hot since the Club World Cup. And, as you mentioned, I think that's going to be what sticks with me from this night and through the rest of the season. Because, as you were saying when we were looking at the video of the locker room celebration, it's crazy that this is, you've still got a decent slate of MLS regular season to play, including at Miami, which I'm sure will be fiery for, reasons I'm sure people already know about. It's the organizational win. That's such a big thing. And for a guy like Brian Schmetzer, my thing is, thinking about Brian, is he the first, Sounders person that's going to receive a statue at some point for this franchise? Because you think about his pedigree, and Tim Booth tweeted it while we were in post-game waiting for Brian. Is there a Seattle coach that rivals him? And I don't think so. People bring up Pete Carroll. That's great. He won 1 Super Bowl. He went to 2. It's great. People brought up Don James for Washington, obviously as a Husky, sure. But we're talking about a guy, with the Open Cups, the MLS Cups, Continental trophies. I don't think there's anybody in this city that rivals that. So I think he's your city's best coach of all time. And, there are club legends. We talked about him with, I love Obafemi. I don't think he would get a statue or anything. There are club legends like Nico, Steph Fry, but I think Brian Schmetzer kind of makes a pretty good case. I don't know where that would be. Maybe it would be at the training ground. I don't know if they'd put it at Lumen Field, but yeah, there's just so much that goes into this, and I think the ECS TIFO kind of speaks to it. Built, not bought, so God, I think the one thing I want to go to next is Paul Rothrock, because we've talked about him all year with this show about the Wings. There was the whole thing where 100 fans could come and exchange their Miami Messi kit at the team shop here at Lumen Field for a Paul Rothrock kit. That happened quick. What a story. He came on and showed flashes last year. I think he got hurt in the playoffs, if I remember correctly. And yeah, you talk about Georgie. We've had this discussion all year about the wingers. At times, he kind of got buried when you had Jesus playing on the right. What a story. The local kid has now earned his first piece of hardware. There's another kid who has had a pretty decent run in recent memory with Osaze, but, it is really Paul Rothrock's world, and we're just living in it, right? I don't know. What'd you see from him? Because, It was the same. It was Paul Rothrock again. It was what we've grown used to. His work ethic was.
Yep.
It was frustrating players.
Yep.
Talk about Rage Bait FC. I don't know. Yeah. What do you see from Paul?
I mean, when you talk about, we were going back here for a minute through because I wanted to see when the last time the Sounders made like a splash summer signing was.
Yep.
And we're going back through and it was Leochik 3 years ago. But you see all these guys that they bring in specifically in the summers, guys like Ozada, guys like Georgie, and Paul Rothrock really feels like, if not the beginning of that, like the point, because this is not a guy necessarily who was handed to them, because there are successes that come from the academy and that's fantastic, but this is the guy you have to go out and scout. It's a guy who they understand is a player because he came from here and because he's a guy who played at Seattle United. But that takes effort and that takes funding and that takes time.
Yeah.
To scout Paul Rothrock, especially to understand because maybe he's not, credit to all his skill, but he's not a dribbler. He's not the guy that's going to blow somebody away.
No.
To understand that, to understand we want to sign this guy not because of. Not because he's got a superior skill level to every other player in the league, but because we understand that he's going to be an organizational fit, is really important, and that's a lot of credit to the scouting department and to everybody who, puts the funding and the time and the effort in to scout guys that deeply. Rothrock himself, I feel like just really epitomizes what this team is, in terms of. God, how do I phrase this? Players who are not handed things. Players who, can come in and yes, he had an assist in his first game down at Houston.
Oh, yeah.
But, who can go cold for a little bit and still be trusted to come back. Players who, that we talk so much about the young players of this club. Paul Rothrock is 26. He is not 20 years old. He's not 18. He's not Sandro Brunel. And yet they have the faith in him to come through. And Brian Schmetzer talked about the fact that his goal was the quintessential. Yep. I can't remember what the word he used was. It wasn't that. Paul Rothrock goal.
Yeah.
Because he beats out a 37-year-old Sergio Busquets, whose legs just can't carry him any further. And to talk about his mentality, because he misses a one-on-one earlier in this game.
Yes.
He walks it up and he talked to us about this, and we'll get to that. And it's saved. And he still has the faith to make an arguably a harder shot to go cross goal into the bottom corner. Paul Rothrock is the epitome of mentality. Of like I think just the Brian Schmetzer player.
Sure. Okay. Yeah.
Because there are guys on this team who you sign guys for an organizational fit, and I don't think that gets more obvious than tonight. And also for skill, but for organizational fit, and I think you can see a little bit of Paul Rothrock in every player on this team.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Well, and it was interesting too. Paul, in his scrum with us after, was asked about his contract, because his contract's up at the end of the year, and said he'd love to be here, long term, and it'll just be fascinating to see what that contract would look like, and because I'm sure he's going to get a pretty decent raise to what he's currently making. It is just so funny to be looking again at this lineup, and I went through the back line. I forgot Andrew Thomas spent several years in Tacoma Defiance as well. He's a guy, when we were looking at him during the scrum, I couldn't all I could remember was Brian saying at the beginning of this tournament was that Andrew Thomas asked for Leagues Cup. And I was like, fascinating. Obviously, you get to Liga MX opponents. They're certainly very good teams. Yeah. But I just thought it was fascinating that he would do that, and he's looked great throughout this tournament. He only had to make the one save today, which is fascinating to me. But that was another thing. I don't mean to totally make it go into the Andrew Thomas direction, but he looked steady for you through the entire match against, he was talking about, I think, at the end of his scrum about, playing against Messi, playing against Suarez. This roster with Rodrigo De Paul and, Busquets, God. Looked steady, didn't look nervous. I mean, he's never been one who shied away from a moment, right? We've seen that throughout the course of this undefeated Leagues Cup run. But there are just so many success stories that you can write about. I'm sure you've written about several of them in your 8 million words. Organizationally, yeah, this is such a win for the Sounders, and Paul Rothrock joked about it, but it is fascinating to kind of think about, with Craig, having his availability ahead of the Sporting Kansas City match, and you bring up the summer transfers. How much anger gets taken away, changes into, okay, fine, you told me so. If they've already, I'm sure some of it happened because they won this tournament, but if they win MLS Cup, like this, again, we've got a long way to go. But, they're kind of proving themselves right.
Yes, exactly. They have something they can point to and say, this is what happens.
It's working. Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, Andrew Thomas didn't have to do much. He was big on some of the crosses, the corners.
Yeah. And to talk about Andrew Thomas just a little bit, one of the things that's most important especially when you give a guy like Andrew Thomas the game, the tournament, you say he's going to have it, and when you have a new goalkeeper, is the connection that they have with their back line.
Yes,
that's one of the most important things. And number one, he already had a connection with a bunch of these guys because he played with them in Tacoma.
Yep.
And that cannot be overlooked. But the speed with which he has, not earned the trust, but the way he kind of commands that unit, because he gave the credit to those guys, but he understands that the connection they have, and you have to be so strong, especially to defend in the way they did for probably about 45 minutes in the middle of that game before they get the second goal.
Yeah.
It's so impressive, and I think the fact that happens so quickly, and obviously trains with them every day, and he understands who these guys are, but to do that in a live environment is so important, and it's not something that happens quickly if you're not a phenomenal goalkeeper.
Yeah.
I'm so curious to see what will happen with him, because he's got a great relationship with Tommy Dutra. He's got a great relationship with Steph Fry. Steph wants to keep playing here. Mm-hmm. It's not going to be long before he could go be a starting goalkeeper at any team.
Oh,
in the
for
league
sure.
Right now.
Yeah.
But he obviously cares about being here. He's talked so often about the fact that I want to be the starting goalkeeper for the Seattle Sounders at some point in my career. He's not a young guy either. He's, 28, 29?
27.
27. Sorry, Andrew.
Wow.
But I will be so curious to see, because the Sounders have, there's so many success stories that have come out of this team. While a guy holds the number one spot, Steph Cleveland, Tyler Miller have both gone on to be starting MLS goalkeepers, mm-hmm. And have not stayed to take that starting job. I'm curious if they'll stick around. I think it would be fantastic for the Sounders. I think they should do everything they can to make it happen.
It's difficult.
I don't know if it's going to.
Because, you talk about success stories, right? But they've also... I don't know if I could say that. Because I was going to say they generally have respected, their legends as they've kind of winded down. But, Nico Ladeiros, that didn't necessarily end well. He wanted to come back, and they said no.
And
Raul. Stuff with...
Hey, what's up, guys?
Reddy Montero. So it hasn't always ended that way.
And that should be priority number one, is making sure that Stefan Fry remains connected to this team.
I would be
that he does not exit without grace.
Yeah. I would be shocked if that happened with Steph. I think that would be really disappointing. But yeah, to your point, I don't need to see anything else from Andrew Thomas. I think this should be your guy going forward. We joke about goalkeeper controversy. I don't just seeing the way, especially with this tournament, seeing the clubs they at times demolished, right? Seeing him step up in the penalty shootout, doing so with swagger, and then with this match, really, you talk about the back line too. I was thinking when we came back into the press box and you were working on your article, I was like, how big is it to have those two guys in the middle, and Jackson Reagan and Neymar? Because
this team changes so much when Yeimar's out.
Absolutely, and that was the biggest thing for me, and maybe one of my takeaways I'm going to write about is how I don't think he'd ever get an MVP vote or anything, and I obviously go a lot.
He was a finalist for Defender of the Year.
How much does this team change if there's no Yeimar?
And that's where you need. You know what they're going to say, right? They're going to say we're going to rely on our academy. We're going to rely on guys coming out of MLS Next Pro, and you have to trust them. Mm-hmm. You have to say, hey, I believe in Stu Hawkins.
That's right.
But because there's precedent.
That's right.
Not only like precedent for success stories, but trophy winning precedent now.
Mm-hmm.
Jackson Reagan is another of the guys who is but you have to understand it takes time. And stuff is cyclical, and this team went three years without a trophy, and it was successful. But you go 3 years without a trophy, and people get frustrated,
especially with the pedigree of this club. Yeah.
And there's expectation, but they're gonna say if there's a guy out there that we want to go spend money on, like Yamar, we've shown we can do that. But trust us when we say this is gonna be the kid.
Yeah. Hey, when's Leo Burney's turn? Hey, I don't know. Maybe we're here in a few years. We're talking about Leo. Yeah, I don't know.
That's a genuine possibility.
No, again, it's not.
And it would not be a possibility at probably minimum a third of the teams in this league.
Oh yeah, it's even more. Yeah, minimum. Yeah, minimum's the right word there. Yeah, God, it's just so crazy because there's it's also interesting. At the end of the season, when we line up for the opener next year in 26, how different does this roster look? Because there are some decisions to make, as we talked about a few episodes ago. What is Obed? When does Obed leave? It's interesting. It'll be interesting. Danny Musovsky.
I mean, and you can kind of look at it a little bit with the difference between the team that won the Champions League and the team that won this. Think about how difficult. Because I was thinking about it when Kim Ki-hee subs on for the last 30 seconds or whatever, and I'm like, I turned to it, I was like, he deserves to be here. Like he is such a part of the trophy-winning history of this team. But man, think about how much this club has changed.
Yeah.
Obed Vargas comes in that Champions League final
with JP down.
Plays fantastic. Yes. Yeah. Plays fantastic. But think about the player he was then and the player he was now. The level to which this team has shown it can develop is really impressive, and I think that people just have to understand that, like I said, it's cyclical, and you can't always fix everything with money, and you instead are you're a fan of one of the organizations in the league that understands that it can develop talent locally.
I think the big thing that is can develop, right? Because with so many other teams we look at, it's just wanting to trust some of the young guys, right? It doesn't always pan out. I'm not saying it does with every young player. We just looked at Ethan Davalair on transfer market, and I was like,
warrior.
Hey, maybe we'll need him. And it's like, that is it's been fascinating to watch some of these guys come up. I remember, being here for CONCACAF Champions League when Obed Vargas, came on. I was like, I didn't know what he would look like. When Paul Rothrock first burst onto the scene, and I believe it was scoring at his debut in Houston. I was like, oh, cool, fun story, right? And sometimes those guys just turn out to be fun stories. This guy is a legit player now, on a side that's won a trophy. Dero, what does Dero look like? Because as I was, with Danny Musovsky, he's out of contract. So, are you bringing him back? Or are you saying, hey, as Craig Weibel said in his availability, was a week or two ago, Dero's ahead of schedule. Do they say, hey, we believe he can take another jump? Because he scored 4 times in this tournament. Can you believe that? Like, what was the meme from Noah? Was it Nepo number 9? There's just, I don't know. It's difficult because there's so much good. It feels like there's not a lot of bad to talk about. There were a few runs that Miami had. Tadeo Alande had that one that I was like, this is a sure goal. And
there was a good amount of luck in this game.
Yes.
How many times does Leo Messi, who has now came into this game with 33 goals in 33 finals,
it's ridiculous,
stand on the edge of the 6-yard box and hit it over?
Mm-hmm.
Another guy put it wide.
Yes.
As much as you want to talk about organizational success, winning, to win a trophy, you have to have some luck.
There was some Sounders magic in this.
Yeah, to a certain degree, you can say, hey, we make our own luck.
Sure.
We develop talent who understand it, but
do things the right way, whatever.
But you got to get lucky, and they did in this game.
Yeah.
Would Andrew Thomas have made those saves? Who knows? But I think what comes out tonight. And I was going to talk about this in the context of Andrew Thomas and Steph Fry, because I felt like what separates them is pedigree and where we talk about championship mentality and the fact that Steph had been in so many situations that when they're in a situation like this, when you have Messi, when you have Busquets, when you have Suarez, I say I want Steph there because, I understand he's got a high skill level, but I understand that he will keep his composure. And I understand that he will be a guy who can help lead this team. I was writing about this thing with all the young guys, and I say, you look at Christian, and when you have so many young guys on the field, you expect a guy like Christian or a guy like Steph to have to, take them under their wing and be like, hey, we got to be calm. We can't lose their head. Obed Vargas looks like he's 45 years old. We'll talk about Reed a little bit too, but these guys do not need help because they're so mature. And with Andrew Thomas, I think that was the final step because we'd seen him perform.
Oh, yeah.
To saying he could be the starting goalkeeper for this team right now. Because we've seen him perform, and I can say he has a high skill level, and I can say, hey, he can make most of the same saves that Steph can make, but when it comes down to it, when it's a final, am I comfortable with him being there over Steph? Right now, I say yes.
Yeah.
Or just because I understand that he can step up in those moments and hold his nerve.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I mean, well, to continue that and talk about a guy that you were going to mention, I will admit, he continues to maybe prove me wrong. We saw him actually walking down on the club level when we were doing this. Reed Baker-Whiting. I was not sure how I felt about this. I mean, I figure we're going to use, as we do in San Luis, I'm going to use a football term. I was like, hey, this is like an instance where you're playing a young cornerback and they're going to pick on the young cornerback. They didn't. I mean, he didn't get tested much. But, I mean, he held his own. It is funny, again, to look at the foot mob rating and see all green here, outside of Alex Roldan, who's got the blue for player of the match. But, in a match where some people might be really concerned because Nuhu's not there, Reed did his job. I think that's how I'd put it, is he did his job. Yeah. And, it's... that's what I was going to tie it into, is you talk about, some of these older guys who have been in these situations, Christian Roldan, God, who else? Yamar's been in there. Jackson Reagan's been part of some of it. Who have been in, these big matches. I've seen certain accounts, they want to tear it down.
Yeah.
When they want to tear it all down because it's the same core or whatever, and they haven't won anything in 3 years. And I'm like, I don't, this core, it's not exactly like the Spurs, like the NBA's the Spurs, how they were so good for so long.
Yeah.
It's continuous winning, like the Packers, but you're competitive every single year. You're in the playoffs every single year. You're in these tournaments every single year. You're usually hardly ever, I feel like, one and done in these, and how much of that is, guys like Christian, like go back to Steph, Yamar, passing down that knowledge. We're going to do this live. You don't even get to see your arm. Well, not live, but at Abby.
I was
at Abby.
At Ab English.
Okay. God, their vibes are crazy, and it's 10 o'clock at Lumen Field, and stuff's still going on. But you get what I'm saying, right? All of these veterans who are, around these academy guys, because we see at training. I mean, they're not on the same exact field, but they're in the same complex. They're around each other. Just, and he didn't look flustered. He didn't look scared of anything. And I feel like at least some of that comes from being around these guys who have been in it. Yeah. Right? You get what I mean?
Yeah. No, and I think when you go back to Reed and you talk about why he was successful in this game, normally and we'll talk again, it goes back to the Sounders kind of switching a little bit tactically. Normally when Alex Roldan plays on this team, he's the right back, but he is not right back. He puts himself in the channel. He puts himself into the midfield. Alex Roldan was attached to back four in this game, which allows left center back Jackson Reagan to slide over, or for Christian Roldan to drop in, and for Alex to rotate into midfield to help Reed, because you're not to say he doesn't succeed in this game 1-on-1, but you don't want to leave 1-on-1. You don't want to put him in a situation like that.
Yeah.
And so it was a tactical success in the way that they supported him in this game. But also, I think just, when you talk about the fight that these guys have, and the youth have more intense, whatever. He's a gnarly, get his foot in, and you have to develop, because most wingers aren't like that. This is a guy now who is willing to put his foot in, and knock a guy over.
Yeah.
2 years ago, again, talk about player development. 2 years ago, Reed Baker Whiting would not have done that.
Yeah.
And that's that's success from learning from a guy like Christian Roldan, who is 5'8", but plays like he's 6'4". It's success when you play with Yamar and Jackson Reagan every day, and you have to go body these guys. It's success from a guy who's played against great competition at every step of his career, from Seattle United to Stanford Academy, to MLS Next Pro, and to Go in Defiance, where you have to play against players who are bigger and stronger than you are. So when you get here, you're ready to put your foot in.
You're not overwhelmed. Yeah.
And again, organizational success.
Yeah, that keeps going back to it. We could spend time on Osaze, but I feel like none of us want to be here.
We will spend time on Osaze next year.
Yeah, there you go. I think the way I'd wrap it up is, to go off the organizational success. I mean, this is a history of Seattle Sounders winning trophies at Lumen Field in front of big crowds, right?
Winning them decisively.
Yeah. That was another thing. Is I was going to talk about how everything was positive, basically. I can't see one or two glaring, outside of the fact that Luis Suarez spit on an old man, but that was not a Sounders issue.
Yeah.
I mean, you think about it, one of the big things that people are like, oh, how many Messi fans are going to be in the stands? Don't get me wrong, there's a lot of hot pink out there.
But you look at the stands between when the Sounders scored their last goal, let's say.
Sure.
And when they lifted the trophy, maybe 10,000 people left. Maybe.
Yeah.
That tells you who was supporting this team today.
Oh, yeah. Well, and even, in the crowd chants, there was no, Messi chants, there were no Miami chants.
All we heard from Messi was boos when he touched the ball.
Yes, yeah, which I didn't even expect that. It was so loud in favor of Seattle. It was, 69,000. Seattle showed up again.
On short notice.
On short notice. What was it? 4-day turnaround since the semifinals?
3
days? Less than a week, which, I don't know.
For a game that's not in season ticket packages either.
Yep, and in a tournament that a lot of fans aren't really happy with, and I understand that. That's fine. We've heard
a flawed tournament.
Yeah. I think the big takeaway from all of this is organizational success, and I feel like you could do a whole feature on that with these guys. So, just a shame that Michael is asleep nap time when this. Well, he could be partying at the wedding he's at, but no, great to be able to do this post game. It's been funny seeing players on the lower level walk away from their after party. I guess. Who's Teddy Swims is doing a concert at the WAMU Theater next door. They brought the trophy over to that. We heard that. So, no, it's another, Seattle Ads, the only club to have won every annual trophy in North America?
Every Continental trophy available to them.
It's crazy. So, and they're still in decent shape for, the rest of the...
And this is... perhaps one of the things that is a negative from tonight is you understand that Christian Roldan is carrying an injury.
Yeah.
He gets beaten up in this game.
Yeah. Owen was texting me during the match. He's like, oh, he's limping again. And I was like...
Yeah. Which, and that is not a guy who's going to come out of this game.
No.
Ever. And he was the guy, this is the lead of my piece, who takes the ball for the penalty. And he's limping, and he takes the ball and hands it to his brother, and he looks so light. And so he, is an important part of this team that, you're going to have to give some time to. You're going to have to say, hey, take a few days, maybe take this game. But, to really round this off, you're confident that, not that you can replace him, but that you have a player who you do not have to go splash money on, who understands how to play under Brian Schmetzer and play in this system and play with these guys that you will be able to place there for a game. And so we're confident that this 19-year-old can stand in here and give us what Christian Roldan does for 90 minutes.
Yeah, and they don't play again until, the 13th against the Galaxy? It's the third time they'll play the Galaxy in their last 7 matches, which is pretty funny. So... yeah, that'll do it. We're getting into the conversion time for Lumen Field as they get prepared for the Seahawks are the next closest thing here. So live recording. One day we'll have Michael here. Yeah, until we see you again, which I don't know. We'll probably have to do a podcast in the next few days.
This week for sure.
Until we see you next time, take care of yourselves. Do well, whatever you can to make today a great day.
Hey, Charles.
Hey, Jen.
Hey. So where are you going to watch all of the Sounder away games this year?
Away games for the Sounders. Well, since Rough and Tumble is the home of Circling Seattle Sports, I was thinking of coming here if that's okay with you.
I think that's a great idea. Go Sounders. Hope we see y'all here.